need to get another starter or two. But we think that the starters are going to come from the inside. Try to get another one. But even if we don't, hey, it's cool. But what we're going to do here is we're going to build up the bullpen regardless. Even if you do end up signing somebody, Michael Lorenzen, some other, relatively cheap starter, you're going to try and make the bullpen as strong and as deep as you can get it, because you got to somehow put together, you got to make up the innings that you're losing with Lugo, Walker, Snell, Martinez. So that's the way they're going to do it. It's the cost-effective way. It's different than the last 2 years, but winning teams have done it.
Absolutely. Okay, so just overall, your thoughts then as this is added to the bullpen, your thoughts on the unit itself for the San Diego Padres and how it compares, whether it's league or years past or things like that then?
The bullpen is the riskiest place to build. I mean, be it injuries, be it relievers from year to year, baseball people just kind of resigned to the fact that, the elite ones are always going to be good, but your middle type guys, you just don't know. Yeah, they're good, but, they go through some rocky periods, and a bad month by a reliever can, effectively ruin a season. They brought in two guys that are highly accomplished in their respective leagues, from Japan and from Korea, but we don't know what they're going to do here. I would assume Matsui, probably, like an eighth inning guy, go sixth, seventh, maybe the eighth. Look, there's going to be a whole bunch of mixing and matching with the different guys they have. Steven Wilson's capable of working the seventh and the eighth. Cosgrove, a lefty, in the sixth and seventh. They've got a whole bunch of swing guys. I mean, Avila, Avila could be like your number 5 or 6 starter, or he could be a guy who provides you 3 innings twice a week. So they've got a lot of options. I think that's good. To me, the story of the season is, at least going into spring training, is the construction of this pitching staff. And then the story of the season, there's a lot of them, but one of the primary ones, and I think it's the primary one, is the ongoing health of Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish.
Kevin, that's a massive concern with Musgrove and Darvish. We spent some time talking about this because we don't know what they're going to look like. And I think the surgery, the condition that Musgrove has is very similar to what Clayton Kershaw has experienced. So right now, if you're the Padres, where do you go from here? And I know we're presuming, right, if everyone's healthy, that you have Darvish, you have Musgrove, you have King, but are the 4th and 5th starters even in the organization right now?
They're trying to convince me that they are, or that they could be. No one's denying that they're not, that they're trying to get another starter, but that, hey, you're underestimating what we've got here and how they can piece this together. Guys that can step up. To me, and I know that they would acknowledge this too, to me, that's risky. I mean, you're saying, okay, well, you're saying, Michael King is going to go from 9 starts and I think 104 innings to 25 starts and 150 innings. You're saying that Vasquez and Brito can give you a dozen starts apiece or more. I mean, wow. It's just, wow, okay, so everything's got to go good. And Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove have to give you what they give you when they're healthy. Look, we know that they've got to add some outfielders. Who's your regular designated hitter? But to me, it's like, look, they've got the big 3. They've got some other guys that can be really capable, hitters. I think their offense is going to be fine. The real big question is the centers around the pitching staff. It's construction, and then the health.
You mentioned the big 3, and of course, one storyline towards September was why the Padres hadn't shut down Manny Machado, considering they had slim playoff chances, and he was going to need offseason surgery. Do you expect him to be ready when you board the plane to South Korea for the opening series?
Yeah, whether that is as, just designated hitter, or whether he's playing third base, or whether it's third base, but he rests more. I would think once he's a go. So maybe it's a designated hitter, but obviously here in the next couple of weeks is, we at least maybe get a better idea based on, okay, what is he really doing at the start of spring training? And, as we all know, like, it's a month, and then they leave for Korea, and then they've got a week of exhibitions, and they start a week earlier than everybody else. So it's going to happen pretty quick.
It's Peralta. Do you think Peralta is going to be the splashiest move the Padres make this make this offseason? It's kind of funny when you think of AJ Preller splashes last couple seasons. I don't know that Peralta is something that you consider a splashy signing. But for this offseason, is this the biggest pickup they'll have?
I guess it could be. He's been a pretty, reliable guy and a very pressure-filled market and a good team. I think that's good. But yeah, it does speak to where they're at. It's still hard for me to believe that there's not a trade coming.
Mm-hmm.
You just go over what AJ has done. It's hard to believe. Now, he is operating in a new reality. I know people didn't want to believe this when we were saying it back in, August, September, October. They're operating in a new financial reality. That's clear to everyone now. But that doesn't mean that with the prospect capital that he has, that he can't swing a move for a starter, especially once kind of the market gets moving and people know what they have got and what they need, that they don't come calling, that AJ isn't able to call people, or that they don't come calling to him and say, all right, well, this is where the direction we're going to go. And it becomes more clear. And I still believe that there's a trade coming. It's almost impossible for me to believe that they're not going to add another starter.
Another starter? You mean a starting pitcher? Okay,
like a decent one,
okay.
Decent starting pitcher, like something more than a 4 or 5. It's just hard for me to believe that they would go into this. I believe they do have confidence in this team. You've got the big three that they're saying, how could they not perform better than last year, right? It's no longer a big 4, but these 3 really good hitters. So they got to be better, right? Cronenworth, better. Ha-Seong Kim, as good as he was last year. This offense, Campusano, continuing to get better. I know they're very confident in that. But, man, there's still, I don't care if you have, 12 closers, closer caliber relievers. You got to have more innings. You need to fill 850 to 900 innings from your starting rotation. And I just don't see where that happens this year.
What makes you confident that Jake Cronenworth is going to trend upwards? I mean, he did have a miserable season, signed that big contract extension, like right after opening day. But just based on how his numbers are projecting, why do you think that he is due to turn this thing around?
I think he's a good player. I don't have these expectations that he's like a number 5 hitter. I think that he can be back to what he was, and that is a quality player who can provide you big hits and slot into this lineup in the appropriate spot. I just feel like if you've got your big 3, you're no longer, you're not asking Jake Cronenworth to be your number 2 hitter, right? Like, I think you're going to go, I don't know who your leadoff is. I think Xander's probably 2, and maybe it's Toddy at the top, but I think you got Jake down at 6 or 7. I think he's a good player. That's all. I think there was some pressure last year. I'm very interested to see if Jake acknowledges that in spring training. But there were some. It's so important to Jake Cronenworth, and I think that played into last year.
You mentioned that you would be shocked if some sort of trade doesn't pan out. Now, here are the issues, and I'm sure that you get trade suggestions all the time sent to you on Twitter or Threads or whatever different social media companies that you're at. Well, you can't trade Manny Machado. You can't trade Tatis. You can't trade Bogarts with their locked-in no-trade clauses. Cronenworth is limited. How big a candidate is Ha-Seong Kim, and have the Padres have any discussions with him or his representation about an extension?
No. Not that I'm aware of. Okay. And I'm fairly confident that they have not, but in terms of substantial. But, and also is my understanding that as far as these trades that could have happened, say with Cronenworth, Kim, the likelihood of that went way down after Soto was gone. And Kim, like, my understanding is the infield is set. Now, I'm not exactly sure where everyone's playing, like, whether Xander's Bogart's still going to be at short all the time or what the story is. But I don't think that Ha-Seong Kim is going anywhere. But they need some people, right? Like, and they do have some guys that can play the infield. They need outfielders. They need starting pitchers. I'm going to be on edge until something happens, and that could be right up to the end of spring training. going into the season.
You're going to be an edge. Well, for your sake, for your health, I hope that the Padres do something relatively soon. Now, you mentioned that, the idea of a trade, and of course, you have some candidates for the outfield, but right now the Padres have essentially one full-time outfielder, and that's Tatis. As great as he is, he cannot play all three positions simultaneously. Are there any potential free agent outfielders that would make some sense? There's a couple of former Padres that are out there, whether it's Profar or AJ Preiller's favorite guy, Tommy Pham.
I think Tommy Pham makes a lot of sense. It's just what is his, playoffs helped him. But there's, Tommy's lot in life is basically to wait till spring training and sign the 1 year or 2 year deal. And, he generally gets more than what the Padres probably are willing to pay for an outfielder. And so maybe not. I know that Tommy would love to come back. I know that AJ Preller loves him. He really does. I know the guys in the clubhouse really like him. I think Tommy Pham is someone that perennially, actually, for the last couple of years, the Padres have kept an eye on Tommy Pham's market, and that they are now. It's not going to be. Look, I think there's a fairly good chance Jose Azocar is playing the outfield fairly regularly this year. And there's not, anybody out there. Look, these guys have less than 30 million, got less than 25 now, maybe to spend. So there's not a lot of hope there in terms of getting an impact guy. But look, this free agent market is not moving, and it's not moving because the guys at the top of it, there's questions about them. And then after that, everyone knew after Bellinger, Snell, the guys who have already signed, obviously, then Bellinger, Snell, kind of, you're just filling out your roster at that point.
I think one of the biggest questions that I'm getting from Padres fans, and I know Darren gets it, I'm sure you do as well, and we'll hear from him hopefully come the first day of spring training, but would be the direction of the Padres ownership group. I've seen literally like a 2-sentence statement from Eric Kutsenda since the untimely passing of Peter Seidler. Do you have any clarity whatsoever, Kevin, on what the direction of the ownership group will be moving forward?
No, that's one of our main focuses. I shouldn't say main. I mean, let's be honest. Peter's passing changes things in that Peter Seidler is not the guy making the final decision. So even though no matter who it is, whether it's one of his brothers, whether it's Eric Kutsenda for the foreseeable future, it's not Peter making the final move. So even if they say, hey, we're still going to operate this with the same mindset, a big wild card is gone, right? And so, but then again, there's parameters within the budget that they have to work in, that they were going to be with if Peter was still with us. It's not the main story, but I think it's something that definitely needs to play out. Eric Kutsenda, you can't have a temporary control person for very long.
Right. Sorry, somebody was calling me about that. Sorry about that. Hey, Kevin, I'm sorry about that. Kevin, I know that you visited with Mike Shildt just a couple weeks ago. I think you traveled to his home area, and he went on tour earlier to go ahead and reacquaint himself with his players. What has been the overall reaction to Mike Shildt among some of the more significant players on this team? And by significant, I mean like the guys who really set the tone for that clubhouse.
Well, I have not talked to Manny.
Okay. Well, but, I'm shocked to hear that.
But my understanding is that from multiple people, and what else would they say? So I give a caveat there, but that Manny and others really like Mike. They like that they're past the drama of last year, and that everyone is understanding that Mike is like he's their guy and he's AJ's guy. He's a program guy, and everybody is very eager to move on from the drama of last year, and that they just are getting the feeling that Mike Shildt is the guy, right? Now, is that surprising? No. Look, I like Mike. I think that there's a lot to like about him. I do think he might be the best equipped to work with AJ. But the fact is, whoever was going to be manager, they were all going to jump on board. That's just how it is. But I do believe that there is a legitimate feeling by these guys that, like, you know what? This is good. This is good. This guy's managed. He's won. So they appreciate that, right? And they appreciate that look, this guy, everything about him is that he's a program guy. He's a organization guy. That's his word, an organization man. And he is exactly, I think, what AJ Preller needs right now, because AJ is, looking at a pretty important year for his ongoing employment. And so he needs someone who, and I want to make this point, and I'll make it several times in the future, that just because Mike Shildt agrees with AJ Preller on a lot of stuff doesn't mean he's a yes man. It means that what happened is the boss hired someone who, they see eye to eye on things. And that's all it really has to mean. And I think I really do. I think he's the best equipped to work with the unique personality that is AJ Preller.
Kevin, we appreciate all your time today. Before I let you go, because I know you're back, you're going into your cave, right, until February 1st. And I want to thank you for joining myself and Jack and Jonathan Rifkin on today's show in place of Darren, who is somewhere in Colombia. But do the Padres, I think I can think of one guy, okay, but who's the Padres' untouchable prospect? I'm sure we're all thinking the same person, but with AJ, you never know. When it comes to trades, who's one guy who's going absolutely nowhere?
The top prospect, the 17-year-old catcher, Ethan Salas. But I think a couple of the top. I don't think that Jackson Merrill's going anywhere, though that there's a lot of interest in him. I really believe that most of these guys, they have been for a couple of years saying, 2025, 26, we are going to be a far more balanced team. And the way to do that is that, a lot of these top prospects that they have, but they do have a number of them. And so that's where I think a trade can come. But if you want untouchable, I have never, not like I've been around forever, but I have never, how much these guys love their prospects. I have never heard so many people talk about Ethan Salas the way that, he is talked about. So he's untouchable.
All right. I'm sorry, Kevin, one last question. Any final idea of what this final Padres payroll will look like come 2024 for the regular season?
190, 200. There's been talk about keeping it down below 190, keeping what AJ likes to call, and I think he got this from Ron Fowler, but like dry powder, which is, if you need to make some moves, wants to be able to make some moves. Remember, they think they're a playoff team.
Right.
And, if they want to make some moves in May, June, July, before the trade deadline, they want to be able to do that. And, as we've been saying for a while, there's some restrictions now that there have not been the last couple of years.
Hey, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I know this is the time of year where you need time with yourself and your family. We appreciate you joining us back to your cave, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks in spring training. By the way, I know that we always give you grief for this. This is the best your phone has ever sounded in the entire history, going back to the previous station on the phone. Your cell phone is immaculate. Congratulations. Well done. The next time we talk to you, be in the exact same spot.
Well, I won't be. I assume I will be in Arizona.
Oh, that's true.
Thank you for the opportunity to give me some reps before we really get going in earnest. It was good to, just kind of get back going. So I'm glad the phone worked out, and it was good to stretch a little bit, and I look forward to the season. Or I should say this, by next week, I'll be looking forward to the season. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, that was our project. That was our San Diego Sports 760 Padres insider, Kevin Acee. Jack, J. Riff, did we get to all the questions?
Yes.
Jack,
well
I know.
done.
All right, thank you. I know you had the math. You had your chart. You know exactly where they're at when it comes to the luxury tax. So we have all the answers. Hey?
Yes, and what he's referring to there is the number. There's a lot of like dead money and a bunch of other fees and like all kinds of things that go into getting under 237, which is the luxury tax number. What he's referring to is getting toward whatever it winds up being in the true number, right? 190, 200. That's about what that number will be for San Diego. Wandy Peralta, another 4 or so. He mentioned maybe 5 for this year, but that's how the roster.
You see the videos, if you follow Joe Musgrove, whether it's going to be on Threads or Instagram, or you see all the work he's putting in, but I don't know that we know what to expect until we see him, throw off the mound. I think less concerns for you, Darvish, but I'm curious as to what this Padres pitching staff will look like. That to me, that's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You can never have enough starting pitching right now, and the Padres had to shut down 2 of their horses last season.
Yeah. So injuries obviously play a part of that, but I agree. Like he mentioned 2 guys, which is Salas and Merrill, who are not only high prospects that Padres are going to keep, but may, Marty, be seen on the full roster, the 26-man roster this year.
Okay, I hope I'm going to go ahead and.
Am I distracting everybody?
No, you are with your microphone and all this stuff. But I'm just listening to what John Conniff has said on the show of Matt Fryer so many times that you're just hoping if you're the Padres, you do not fast track Ethan Salas for the wrong reasons. I mean, listen, he's going to be a stud catcher for the Padres for years to come if he pans out the way the projections are. I think last season was a huge one for Luis Campusano. They also brought in a catcher last year or this year, whatever year, 2024.
24.
They traded for oh gosh, I'm sorry, the catcher's name for the Yankees, but I don't
Gary
know.
Sanchez.
No, Gary Sanchez. They didn't trade for him. In the Juan Soto trade.
Oh,
okay. Anyways, they have a pitcher. Luis Campusano is a starting pitcher. I don't think that they're catcher. You're not bringing in Ethan Salas to go come here and sit on the bench, right?
All right.
So I don't know that this is going to be the right time for Ethan Salas. I'm just curious to see what the Padres do when it comes to trading pieces. You know, Dennis Lin a couple of weeks ago when he joined Aaron said he's expecting a couple of significant trades because right now, I mean, you have a couple pieces here and there. You know who the stars are. You know who your big players are. Your big 3. Your hopefully your 1 and 2. You have a good idea of what the back of the bullpen is going to look like with Robert Suarez adding Peralta. You have some huge unknowns in Yuki Matsui and Wusako from South Korea. But man, when it comes to the pitching, you have so many questions right now. So the Padres have quite a few moves to make, and I'd just be surprised if we don't see not just one, but a couple of pretty big trades happening before spring trading really kicks in. So we have like a week and a half left. Let's go.
Kevin Acee, not exactly. He said he feels that bullpen building is rolling the dice. Risky, he said, on the bullpen. Interesting. Obviously, you love to have starting pitching, but everybody can have starting pitching like some of these rosters.
Yeah, from all 3, Joe, on YouTube. Not enough starters, no lefty starters, no lefty bats other than Cronenworth, no outfield. We need to do some work.
That sounds like a recipe for success.
It really, but people. No, this sounds like Jim Russell. Did he hack into
this
conversation?
YouTube, actually, yeah.
But I feel like Darren is just kind of waiting because he knows. Listen, there's going to be some movement. They're not done. There's only 35 players on the 40-man roster. They have to make some moves right now, and there's going to be a few. I think spring training is going to be interesting. It's not going to be like last year where you knew where everyone is going to be at. You didn't have too many positions open. Right now, go and get somebody, and it sounds like Acee is a big supporter in Tommy Pham.
All right.
Let's go.
That could be on the way. Reuniting here in San Diego. That's awesome. All right.
Fun.
Well, that's coming up here as we continue on. Thanks to Kevin Acee from the Union Tribune on the Darren Smith Show. Remember, text line open 70470 first